It didn't start with a scandal. It started with a post. A single announcement on social media. The end of a seemingly perfect love story. Júlio Cocielo and Tata Estaniecki, two of Brazil's most famous digital creators, admired, envied, and dissected by millions, had split. For years, they had been more than a couple. They were a brand. A partnership so polished it could sell anything. Laughter, lifestyle, family, stability. Their smiles were a kind of currency. Their relationship a shared stock. Traded daily in likes, comments, and sponsorships. And then, suddenly, that stock crashed. Fans were heartbroken. Brands went quiet. Algorithms shifted. But beneath the gossip and heartbreak, something far deeper was playing out. An economic parable hidden in plain sight. Because love, like money, runs on trust. And when trust breaks, the collapse follows the same rules as any financial crisis. In the markets, a bubble begins when confidence grows faster than reality. In relationships, it begins when appearances outpace truth. You inflate affection with borrowed time, borrowed patience, borrowed belief. It feels infinite until the debt matures. A relationship, especially in the digital age, is a contract written in invisible ink. I will trust you. You will trust me. The moment that contract breaks, value evaporates. In finance, we call it default. In love, we call heartbreak. But in both, the mechanism is identical, a loss of faith that turns belief into panic. Cocielo and Tata's breakup is not unique. It's simply visible, a public mirror of what happens privately in millions of relationships. But because this was monetized, branded, and broadcast, the collapse was also financial. Followers are investors. Attention is liquidity. Reputation is collateral. And when trust fails, that liquidity dries up. The irony is that we build a world where emotion and economics are now the same market. Followers trade feelings like futures. Love stories are assets. Breakups are corrections. Every perfect couple is a commodity, and the price is confidence. Once, reputation was measured in honor. Today, it's measured in engagement. A single post, an ad, or erase millions in perceived value. When a relationship ends, the algorithm performs a postmortem. Who gained followers? Who lost sponsors? Who still has credit with the audience? That's not romance. That's risk assessment. Because in the influencer economy, trust is the only asset you can't fake for long. Look at any financial chart from history. Weimar Germany, the 2008 crash, the fall of the Roman denarius, and you'll see the same curve. Expansion, denial, collapse, despair. Relationships follow that same graph, just with different currency. At first, there's growth. Two people invest in each other. Time, loyalty, affection. Their combined capital grows stronger than what either could build alone. It compounds like interest. Then comes leverage. Shared projects, shared fame, shared brand deals. A joint mortgage of emotion and image. The couple becomes an institution. And that's where the danger begins. Because once love becomes part of your income, it's no longer just emotion. It's an economy. When Cocielo and Tata smiled for cameras, it wasn't fake, but it was valuable. Their authenticity was monetized. Their happiness collateralized. Each photo was a bond issued to public. Invest in us. We are stable. But every bond carries risk. In finance, the most dangerous words are too big to fail. In relationships, they sound like we'll never break up. Both are delusions built on confidence instead of discipline. You can't borrow trust forever, because sooner or later, the interest rate rises, resentment, exhaustion, the cost of keeping up appearances. Every late apology adds another point of debt. Every ignored argument compounds. Eventually, the balance sheet collapses, and the market, the audience, reacts exactly like investors do when a company misses earnings. They analyze, they speculate, they assign blame. Who defaulted first? That's what happens when private trust becomes public currency. Its collapse becomes entertainment. But this story isn't about two people. It's about all of us. Because we live in an economy of emotion where everyone is an issuer of their own currency, their reputation. Every post, every promise, every performance adds or subtracts value. You are a brand. I am a brand. Trust is our only backing. When Cocielo lost Tata, he didn't just lose a partner. He lost half of a balance sheet. And when Tata walked away, she didn't just leave a home. She withdrew from an investment. That's not cynicism. That's realism in a world where influence is income. We may not like it, but we built it this way. We turn love into equity and validation into dividends. The more public the relationship, the more valuable it becomes, until it implodes under its own expectations. That's not new. It's just faster now. Rome took centuries to fall. We fall in real time, live streamed. And yet, within this collapse lies the same ancient truth. Trust once broken takes generations or a lifetime to rebuild. That's what the markets teach us. That's what history teaches us. And that's what this story, behind all the trending hashtags, is really about. Because the parallels between emotional and financial collapse are not poetic, they're structural. Both are built on invisible belief systems. Both are destroyed by betrayal. And both can only be rebuilt through painful transparency. So, if you've ever watched a love story crumble, online or in your own life, remember, it's not just loss. It's a correction. An overvalued stock returning to its real worth. A currency inflated by hope finally finding equilibrium. It hurts, but it's honest. And honesty is the first foundation of recovery. Soft CTA midscript. If you've ever seen how quickly trust can vanish in markets, in politics, in relationships, subscribe. Because history keeps showing us that no system, no empire, no love is immune to the laws of value. The fall of trust is always quiet before it's loud. At first, it's denial, a post, a statement, a promise that everything is fine. But markets know when something is breaking long before the press release arrives. So do people. When Cocielo and Tata confirmed their split, the reaction was instant. Not just emotional, but economic. The algorithm, that cold, invisible broker of attention, began its silent revaluation. Engagement shifted. Followers redistributed. Brands hesitated. Because in today's marketplace, heartbreak isn't private. It's publicly traded. We live in a world where reputation is equity and trust is credit. When one fails, the portfolio collapses. You don't need to be an influencer to understand that. You just need to have trusted someone and been betrayed. You just need to have believed in a story that no longer made sense. Because at its core, the breakdown of a relationship follows the same logic as a financial crash. Too much leverage, too little transparency, and the illusion that confidence can replace fundamentals. When trust is lost, it's not just emotion that collapses, it's structure. In a financial crisis, the damage spreads through networks. One failed bank infects another. In love, it spreads through silence. One broken promise infects everything it ever touched. And yet, we never stop building on fragile foundations. Because faith, not logic, drives both markets and hearts. It's easy to say trust should be earned. But in reality, trust is always loaned. It's credit extended in advance, based on faith that the other will make good on their promise. That's why its collapse hurts more than theft, because it destroys the illusion of safety. When that illusion burns, something powerful emerges. Truth. Every crisis is a cleansing. Every default resets the system. Cocielo and Tata's story isn't about fame. It's about exposure. The exposure that happens when the numbers don't match the narrative anymore. They were a brand built on chemistry and confidence. But even the most profitable brands can't survive a silent deficit. Love, like any economy, demands maintenance. You can't inflate affection forever without investing in its foundation. You can't spend emotional credit faster than you earn it. Eventually, the books must balance. That's what history teaches us. Not just financial history, but human history. When Weimar printed away its value, it wasn't the paper that died, it was belief. When Wall Street crashed in 1929, it wasn't the numbers that shattered, it was trust. When relationships fall apart, it's not the memories that vanish, it's the meaning. And in each case, the recovery begins the same way. Slowly, painfully, honestly. Rebuilding trust is the most expensive reconstruction a person can undertake. It's not built with money, but with time, consistency, and truth. The hardest currency to earn and the easiest to counterfeit. In a way, every breakup is an audit. Every end is a balance sheet revealing what was real and what was imagined. And like any economy after collapse, recovery depends on discipline, not promises. Because promises are cheap, habits are not. When the myths of love fall, just like the myths of money, what remains is tangible: work, growth, humility. And that's the strange beauty of collapse. It kills illusions but leaves reality standing. In financial systems, collapse is often followed by innovation. New currencies, new rules, new trust. In life, heartbreak forces the same transformation. The collapse of one emotional system makes room for a stronger, more honest one. But only if we learn the lesson. The lesson is this: every form of wealth, emotional, financial, social, is bound by the same law. It only grows when it's backed by real value. You can't fake love any more than you can fake gold. You can't sustain an empire on paper or a marriage on pretense. The market always finds the truth. And when it doesn't ask for apology, it demands payment. That payment is change. It's the same in nations, companies, and hearts. Inflation ends when governments face austerity. Financial bubbles burst when investors face reality. Love stabilizes only when both sides face themselves. And sometimes the most valuable thing to lose is the illusion of permanence. Because when you stop believing that something must last forever, you finally start building something that can. Cocielo and Tata may never have meant to become symbols of anything, but their story, like all public stories, mirrors a larger truth about the world we live in. We are all borrowers of trust. We borrow it from friends, partners, audiences, and customers. We borrow it every time we say, "Trust me." And like any credit, it comes with risk. But that risk isn't a flaw. It's the price of connection. Without it, no love, no society, no economy could exist. That's the paradox at the center of all systems of belief, financial or emotional. You can't survive without faith, but faith always carries a risk of loss. The alternative is isolation, a vault with no transactions, safe but empty. And so, the cycle continues. We believe, we trust, we build, we fall, we rebuild. Each time a little wiser. And each time, the market of life resets to truth. In the end, the Cocielo times Tata split isn't just a breakup. It's a reminder of what every economic chart and every love story eventually reveals: that all value is temporary unless it's renewed. Reputation fades. Beauty fades. Trends vanish. But integrity, like gold, holds its worth through every crisis. And that's the only wealth worth keeping. So when the next perfect couple dominates your feed, remember, what you're seeing isn't love. It's credit. It's confidence, temporarily inflated. Enjoy it, admire it, but never invest your self-worth in it. Because behind every smiling photo lies the same fragile math. Too much emotion borrowed, not enough value earned. When trust is a currency, transparency is the only reserve. When fame is a collateral, authenticity is the only hedge. When love becomes business, honesty is the only profit. And when everything finally crashes, all that's left is what was real: the truth, the lesson, and the possibility to rebuild. That's a cycle every economy, every empire, and every heart must face. Because money and love are built on the same fragile miracle: belief. And belief, like currency, only has value for as long as it's earned. When it's lost, the system resets. And from that reset, after the headlines fade, after the noise quiets, something rare emerges: a new kind of wealth. One not measured in followers or fame or capital, but in credibility. The credibility to say, "I failed, I learned, I'm rebuilding." That's not collapse. That's evolution. So maybe in the end, the fall of a couple is the rise of a truth we keep forgetting: that every empire, every economy, every relationship runs on the same invisible principle: trust. And trust is not infinite. It's earned every day, in small acts that no audience ever sees. Every love story, every market, every human bond is a test of value. And when the credit runs out, when the story ends, and when the applause fades, what survives is the same thing that always has: real work, real worth, and real people rebuilding from the ruins. Because whether in finance or love, One truth never changes. When trust breaks, the currency dies. And when the currency dies, belief must begin again.